Hi everybody, this is Aquarii Moon, and today I wanted to talk about unconscious expressions. So with the work that I've been doing, my personal development work with working on the inner part of me, to be able to help manifest, things in my world that I would see physically. Part of the process is understanding my unconscious expression. When you identify your unconscious expressions, you're able to better handle your emotions, because that's where a lot of our that's where a lot of our anger, a lot of our sadness, a lot of our depressed states, a lot of times we make our own selves depressed for no reason. We self-sabotage. It's going to be an ongoing process, self-mastery, but one of the things that I did learn was that I have done, self-sabotage where I know I shouldn't, go spending money at the mall when I have, obligations for a bill or something. That's it's kind of one of those scenarios where the instant gratification of going to the store, sorry, a motorcycle drove by. The instant gratification for going to the store and buying, I'm not too much into sneakers anymore. I used to be a lot more into sneakers, like when I was in high school and stuff, but I'm more into heels and designer shoes. They're beautiful and things like that, but having to program myself in a way that is not going to be self-sabotaging, to where I would, develop a plan or a budget. A lot of the stuff that I've been learning should be common sense, but it's not. Like, when no one really talks about it, then like that thought wouldn't really cross a person's mind. A lot of times, emotions that are expressed through unconscious expressions are those of, like I mentioned before, sadness, grief, worry, obsession, depression, anger, lack of courage, even fear. A lot of the things that we react on without thinking about it, it's actually coming from a place of a wounded area. And I'll share my divine coordinates with you. So my divine coordinates are: I am liberation, inspired through nurturing and compassion, realizing divine ascension. And now that statement and that phrase I say in the mornings, throughout the day. At times, if it pops into my head, I even have it like on my phone, just as a reminder in the direction that I'm wanting to go, like the improvement that I'm wanting to see. So with knowing your divine coordinates, each coordinate holds a specific space in things that you do, things that affect you. So the west coordinate is the heart, east is the mind, south is physical, and north is the spirit. So because I'm going through training to be a coach, to be able to help the community heal all of the directions, west, east, south, and north, or heart, mind, physical, and spirit. And most of all, it's the biggest one. All of them need to be healed, because there's combinations of behaviors that will have, sometimes it'll have just the east and the west, is where that expression is coming from. Sometimes it's north and east, or north and south. Of all of them, the greatest area of wounding is the west, which is the heart. This is where our feelings and emotions are affected. It's the way you love and feel, and how you feel loved. It's an area that we usually hold from ourselves and give to everyone else. You know, being an enabler, which I have identified with, because I have realized that certain people in my life, in certain situations, I have been the enabler and I've let it happen. So I can't be mad at the person, for just going with the flow. But on the same note, I can't be down on myself for coming to that realization that unconsciously, I'm using, in that aspect, when I'm the enabler, I'm using one of my archetypes, which is the pleaser. So I'm not going to really go into detail about archetypes on this video, but archetypes are basically like a shadow self of you that shows up in different situations. And a lot of the times, that side of you, we get so comfortable in it, and it feels like us because that's what we've normally done. I was listening to a lecture earlier, and the guy made a really good point. If you're friends with somebody, or even if you're in a relationship with somebody, okay, so you guys, you got together 8, 9, 10 years ago, but you're in the, maybe not the exact same position, but you're basically in the same position that you were 9 years ago, still wanting to open a business, or still wanting to clean up credit, or still wanting to travel, or still wanting to whatever it is. A lot of times our unconscious expressions hinder us from growth, and hinder us from being able to have those adult conversations. Like, we shouldn't be having the same vocabulary. We shouldn't be talking about the same things 10 years later. Like, it should have developed into something else, where ideas and things like that are higher on the spectrum. And for me, when I look at my unconscious expressions, a lot of the time I was giving over my power. I haven't been cultivating it and utilizing it for my purpose. I've been essentially kind of similar to hindering, kind of dampening my potential. But I'm glad that I had the spark of an entrepreneurial spirit back in, I would say 2011 was kind of when I first started thinking about doing my own business. I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do, and at the time I started with MLM. It was MLM. I don't really want to say the company's name, but it was basically an MLM. And I mean, hey, you start somewhere, but at least I had listened to a few educational speaker or motivational speakers, like Les Brown. He was really a key person. And also there was another guy, I can't remember his name. There was another guy, because I went to a Les Brown, it was a kind of like a convention. They had a few different motivational speakers, and I was so excited. I was like, oh, I get to see Les Brown. I saw him, on the internet. Did I read any of his books? No, I think I was just more like learning from him online. And I mean, there's all kinds. I mean, all of the motivational speakers, they all have a similar theme, but when you're expressing yourself in an adolescent way, or you're still in the mindset of a teenager or a child, then that just stunt. That's where I was looking for. It stunts the growth. And being wounded in the heart space, I had developed the mentality of the discouraged kid. That's another one of my archetypes, is the discouraged kid, because growing up, I wasn't able to be as free with my expressions as I wanted to. Or early on, when you're toddler and stuff, like you're kind of going along, but as you start getting older, you start developing your own personality and things like that. But it was like that was getting stunted. And then so I started to develop and hold in feelings of anger and hate, and that compounded with being a teenager. It's already an awkward ass stage. For me, it was, at least. Like, it wasn't I'm trying to not have, because I had one video where the like sun was really beaming. Okay, so there were three, because there's a basically like an assignment where you're sitting with yourself. I know I talk about that a lot, like spending time with yourself, asking yourself questions and getting to the bottom of those questions, and not just letting stuff slide, like oh, because I'm actually about to have a conversation with a significant other, because there's definitely some stagnation that has been going on, and with me going in the direction that I'm going, I can't be responsible for a grown person, basically, like, and I'll just leave it there. But some of the questions that I have had to ask myself, who am I being when I'm triggered? Where do I always end up? What is my ditch? So where, when I'm fully triggered, where do I end up? Where I'm like, oh man, it fucking happened again, man. What are my repeated themes or patterns? Who do I not want to be? What are the actions associated with going after the peak experience of my divine coordinate self? Now, the last one's a pretty loaded, and that's only because I haven't even really been in a neutral place. I've been more on the lower part of the spectrum, expressing behaviors like, let me go here, behaviors like negligence. Oh, you know what? I don't have the right, let me, 1 second. Okay. So I've been hanging around, up until this week, because I identified them. So now whenever I see myself, or I'm in a situation where I'm slipping down on the spectrum, I know that, okay, I need to at least be at my neutral so that I can climb back up. So basically, in a lot of my things that I wrote out about kind of like my archetype, and then the spectrums that I'm displaying, make sure I have that. I've been hanging around number 7. So there's a total of 11. So 6 is neutral, and 6 is neutral, 11 is absent, like does not contain that coordinate at all. Not the literal opposite, but it feels like it's just absent. So for my west, which is my heart, and I've been hanging around negligence, the negligence energy. On my east, which is the mind, I've been hanging around 7 as well, which is apathy. For south, which is physical, I've been hanging around discouragement. My north coordinate, which is spirit, I've been hanging around judgment, the judgment energy. Now, because I'm better able to understand energy signatures, energy patterns, and how to recognize them not only in other people but also with myself, I'm oftentimes I'm starting to catch myself like, okay, wait, this is a trigger. This is something that is going to trigger a response that I don't want right now, or I don't need, right? So with my archetype of the pleaser, that's correlated to my liberation coordinate, which is spirit. So the next one, me getting angry at my mom for honestly, when I think about it, it doesn't make sense, but this was a behavior that I was doing, getting angry when she would ask me questions. Now there is a point of, stuff getting to an annoyance, and I think that's where I kept trigger. It just kept triggering me, but that was coming from a place of my east and west, my nurturing and compassion. And this was the archetype that I am displaying in this is the discouraged kid, because a lot of that anger or whatnot kind of developed from when I was younger, and I have been holding and carrying that around with me. The third one that I wrote down was bending the truth so that the person that I'm telling won't get bad news, in a sense. So I essentially cushion the information so that it's not the raw dog, blow. Basically, I was trying to, I've been basically holding them back. In my mind, I'm thinking I'm helping them by doing that, but essentially I'm holding them back from their growth. And this one, I I called it the slick. Wait, what did I call it? I actually called it. I kind of laughed because it's like, man, that's crazy. But I mean, I have to be truthful with myself. I can't, if I really want to heal. So that archetype I put as the lying slick talker, and that affects all coordinates. It affects your heart, your mind, your spirit, and your physical. And essentially I was hindering people as well, and a lot of this was coming up really heavy in the west, which is the heart. So I had a lot of emotion, a lot of anger built up, a lot of dislike for myself. When I'm not that old, but growing up, it was always everybody pushing you to be thin and to be, to look a certain way. And I've always been plus size. I would say, and it's funny because I look back on older pictures and I'm like, I was not fat or I was not like that plus size. I was tripping. But in my mind, though, I felt, even though I was like 100 and something pounds or whatnot in high school, in my mind, I felt like I was 300 pounds. Like, I didn't feel attractive. I didn't feel that I could really be beautiful or be pretty. And a lot of that has to do with kind of one of my other archetypes, which is the loner. I kind of have a loner side as well, but the one I mostly show up as is the dreamer. And I usually sit there most of the time because I want a better situation than what I have currently. I'm always trying to think of ways to change my situation for a better. And I've heard it before. People say it all the time. You are who you are. You are who the company is you keep around you. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but basically, like, the people in your circle, you're basically that same person. So, for me, like, my circle has never really been huge. If I have friends, they usually are for a long time, but we don't always hang out and kick it. That's a good and a bad thing, because with I don't want to just talk about running a business, but that came to me, that is something that I am going to have to work on, because running a business, it takes more than one person. Yes, I'll be the main energy healer or therapist or practitioner, but I would also need, other people for me to be able to leverage my time. Doing this part of my self-development, I had my one-on-one call with my mentor yesterday. Is it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. And after I got off, I did feel better, because I'm like, okay, it's easier to see where my pitfalls have been. Some of this stuff I did recognize, but I just ignored it. I didn't think that, because one thing that kind of pushes me into the lying slick talker is fear. Fear of upsetting the person, or fear of coming off the wrong way. But honestly, it's 2019. I consider myself a grown adult, and I shouldn't have to bite my tongue or be afraid to let somebody know, hey, you know what, I'm being an enabler to you, and it's not fair, because I am crippling that person at the same time. And so facing that issue right now, instead of letting it linger on, those type of things are what I'm helping myself with. And that's another reason why I'm training to be a coach in doing this, so that I can help other people, because everybody has a wounded heart. No matter, I don't care who you are, there's something in all of your coordinates that is keeping you from your potential. So let me go back. So getting a hold of our emotions, being able to control our emotions, that is a grown adult I want to say feature, but like, that's something that grown adults do. They're able to control their emotions and not just react off of something that triggers them. So I'm really glad I've made this progress, because it's really only helping me to be able to help you better. Because the better that I know myself, and I know the wounds that I'm needing to heal, I'll be able to better help heal your wounds, and be able to better be able to provide a better service. So, what unconscious expressions do you find yourself expressing most of all? Do you think something like this would help you develop into the person that you really want to be? What expressions do you guys find yourself expressing a lot? And are you able to help yourself in that situation or not? If not, reach out to me. I do consultations. I'm probably gonna do 30-minute and 1 hour consultations about putting together a plan to help you to dig yourself out of, emotional distress and imbalanced emotions. There's so many medicines and pills out here by these pharmaceutical companies that really only accentuate that. The only thing that they do is either suppress it or add on to what you are fighting or what you're trying to conquer, and you're not going to be able to conquer it with those drugs. It needs to be done, like you need to look at it in the face. Like you need to actually go through the process of removing, discussing, releasing a lot of things that are holding you back. So this has been Aquarii Moon, and I will cut it here. I'll catch you on the next one.